Good morning, Miss Ani.
Hey, hi,
How are you?
I'm good. I feel in balance and alive and okay with everything.
Very good. Very good.
How about you?
I'm good too. I mean, I'm trucking along. The move is really hard. We're just doing it step by step. So
I'm sure, that's one of the biggest things in your life
yeah,
ever.
it is right now. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Hey,
And trying to get out of here is another one. And that's proving very problematic, which I knew it would, but so
trying to get out of there, out of the house,
yeah.
out of
Yeah, finding a new place. Yeah,
Right.
there's so little available, and the support we need to do that is really hard to get right now because there is not much available, and people are putting people into apartments, not houses. So yeah.
I wish, I want to be of support to you, because I know how challenging that is. What all
Yeah.
that, it involves everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yep. Yep.
Your
Yep.
car, the price of gas, food, utility switching, just what city? God, how are you? What's your strategy for tackling this?
Well, we've been looking at places. I mean, I looked around to see where else we could afford, basically, and West Virginia is the only place I've found. I haven't been really methodical because that's like overwhelming, but that was what came up. And there are people there. There's a great Unitarian church in Charleston and all of that. So that's a nice focus.
What kind of church?
Unitarian.
Oh, Unitarian. Right.
And so that's a really, and there's beautiful places. There's really nice places there that are very affordable. That would be, the payments would be less than our rent.
Okay,
So,
Robert.
but getting there is like $7,000. Good morning, Robert. Good afternoon.
With gas and stopping along the way.
Well, with gas and renting a truck for stuff and all of that.
Right.
So yeah.
And hiring people, hiring men to move it to.
Yeah, that's the smallest part. That's not a really big deal, actually. It's a couple $100 probably. But the gas and the truck do really add up. And we don't.
Let me ask you this. Where you are now in Spokane. Are you part of or have access to connection with networks of people of lower income? As friends, as people that who know things that you don't know. In terms of
I'm connected to all of that here, but all of those resources are pretty dried up. I talked to Habitat yesterday. It was one of the most awful experiences.
No, I don't mean organizations. I mean networks of people. I mean, like, go to a Black church. Go to a poor area.
Well, I'm living in a kind of poor area, not one of the best.
Okay.
So what are you searching for? What are you suggesting?
what making multiple novel connections among formerly separate parts. The way my mycelium, extend themselves. I mean, you're in a network of people who work together, and they're homeowners, and I'm saying go outside of the homeowner network and find connections in local neighborhoods where you can begin, just get in, develop relationship. If it's only one person in a network, a low income
To
network,
what purpose? What are you trying to do?
they know things you don't know. They know things people
To what purpose?
To
Am I trying
find-
to find somebody who has a place? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, no, not finding someone who has a place, finding someone who knows who knows about things that you don't know in the circles in which you travel.
About what?
About housing, about an opening, about where there might be something that you and the people that you're part of don't have access to because they're in a different socioeconomic, social,
Yeah.
spiritual,
Yeah.
political thing.
Yeah. So I'm doing that as much as possible. And the key is to tell people what you're looking for, and people tell people, no, hold that. And when something comes up, they'll tell you. So we are doing that. It's a long-term strategy, but yeah.
How do you understand what I'm suggesting? If I've made it clear at all.
What I'm hearing in what you say is that extending my network out, and you can do that by, I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know how I would go into a Black church and say, hey, I'm looking for housing. Has anybody got a place? That just doesn't, that does not fit into how I live my life or the time I have in my life.
It has to be more subtle than that, but it is difference. It is something that you're not part of.
Right. And I don't know how to do that with the time I've got committed to other things. So I'm not going to make efforts to get to know people I don't currently know by joining groups or doing other things.
Joining.
I don't know, Annie, I don't know how I would do that other than spend time with other people that I'm not spending time with right now. And I don't have the time to do that and still do the things that I'm currently doing.
What comes to me is keep doing the things you're doing. You'll keep getting what you're getting. And
there's some of that for sure. But it is what it is. It will change when it's supposed to. I have no doubt about that. So,
okay.
Yeah, that's all I can do.
I just hope you keep there's a corner in your mind where what I'm saying remains until you understand what I'm saying, because it's simple. It's not planning. Doesn't take time. It
does take time. Relationships take time.
Information doesn't.
Well, you're going to have to be more specific in what you're saying then, because I don't see it other than relationships. That's kind of how things happen. People hear about what you need and they remember somebody else who's got a need, and they make that connection in their mind.
Well, maybe I can try to find a way to be clearer, but it's happenstance.
I understand all that, but you're seeming to request an action to make that happenstance possible. And if you could be real specific about that action, that would be helpful.
Get your food from a different store. Go to a different neighborhood to get your store. You might bump into somebody. It's happenstance, because the circles you're operating in aren't yielding the information that you need.
I understand what you're saying.
There where you are.
I do understand that. I do understand
Okay.
that. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
yeah.
I'm done.
So I appreciate it.
I gave it my best shot in a short.
Two really intense people, Robert. And we very nicely appreciate the intensity in each other. So it works really well. Makes other people crazy, but it works for us.
Yeah, it's a different approach,
Yeah.
which can yield different results.
Yeah, absolutely.
That doesn't take a lot of time. Go shopping somewhere else and see what happens. Go shopping in a neighborhood you wouldn't want to live in.
Yeah, I don't shop much. Your wife is peeking around the corner, Robert.
Say, who is this woman yelling at somebody?
She should come join us. Yeah.
Probably won't.
Well, should be welcome.
I know.
Yeah. 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 So I just finished an article on scaling kindness.
Scaling kindness.
Yes, which is on the network.
Is that something that an individual would do, or are we scaling it through organizational?
Well, I actually got to companies. I didn't get to cities, which was my original intent, and I may go back to it and lengthen it. But kindness and consideration. I discovered in writing it, you have to have both. It's not just kindness, it's consideration. And the ability to see and empathize that is inherent in both of those, from a systemic perspective, is the glue that allows for that range of behavior and that range of sensitivity, so that you can begin to anticipate for people things because of that. And so it's not just in the moment. Consideration actually has a future piece, an understanding of the potential in a situation that you can begin to work with to everybody's benefit. That when you reach out and are considered in that way, it's because you are actually forestalling something that could be difficult for someone else in a spontaneous way, that just elicits a connection. It honors that connection is what it does, because we smother it mostly. We smother it or ignore it. And it really brings that connection forward. Anyway, it was an interesting piece to write. It came out of a conversation where somebody mentioned that, and I went, oh my God, what an interesting idea. I haven't heard his response to my ruminations on his insight, but we'll see.
Well, it sounds to me what you're talking about is taking this whole idea of the emotion of caring and taking it out of the surprise element, where you actually have to decide when you run into something that might require your caring,
Right.
and instead meet it with expectation. To have that expectation already set, so that it's very easy to drift into, a giving mode once you meet with them. Because anytime you're put on the spot, you tend to,
Yeah. I think that's actually
bad, I think.
well, I'm ruminating on autopoiesis and how that works in community with a series of autopoietic beings. How do we manage that space? And I think that's part of it, especially from the human perspective. We get into kindness and consideration. I might hypothesize that consideration would be there in any case. Kindness, maybe not. That may be more of a human emotion, but there is always that response everything has to everything else. And if it's really horrendous, then those that can will choose. I'm just thinking of plants. Some plants don't get along together. So when they end up growing together, they don't. The plant will move. They just will not stay there. But when you're thinking of more subtle things, I mean, maybe in the soil or even further down, it would be harder to leave. And so you have to make those adjustments that keep the relationship going in a way that's beneficial to both, because you have to have that there. And how does that happen in nature? What is the mechanism? And dynamic balance is or dynamic stability, I love them both, is sort of the range in which that happens. You know, the process is that there's a gradation there, and so that space gives you the room to move without having to break the connection. Anyway, that came from the cards too. As I played with dynamic balance. And I was really surprised to find that Fritjof does not mention dynamic balance in his latest book at all. I couldn't find it.
The A Systems View of Life is the latest.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's a textbook. And it's,
I have
yeah.
it. I've had it a long time.
Yeah, I have it, but it's not readable in the same sense that the other books are. It's really a textbook. And it just doesn't hold you in the same way that his other writing has. And this is a partnership with somebody else. So
that's been a reference book for me for a long time.
Yeah, and it's a great reference. Yeah, but he doesn't mention it. He does talk about structural coupling, but I think structural coupling happens within that dynamic framework. It's not it's not such a finite thing. There's a range. It's an elastic thing. Structural coupling doesn't feel elastic. It feels really tight. And I'm not sure that given the flexibility of life, it's possible for it to be that tight, because that has to allow for change and growth and the things that happen. I mean, life is always changing. It's always readjusting to things. So there has to be some sort of give there. And structural coupling for me talks about the connection that is sought, you know, that is cared for, that is germane to those particular entities. But there's still this range of connection where you're closer and farther apart at different times, depending on how the growth of everything else around you is functioning.
I just want to reinforce autopoiesis as self-making.
Right. But it's everybody's self-making at the same time.
That means, yeah, that doesn't mean you do it for somebody else.
Well, you do it you certainly do, always.
Of course,
you have to.
Everything, but I keep.
It's not for, it's with. But there's affinities which allow for structural coupling. You see potential between two things see more potential with each other than with other things. And so they glom together in a tighter way. I think that's how I understand the structural coupling.
I'm sensing, intuiting a conception of autopoiesis that I'm getting from you that is outside of self.
But there's a part of it that has to be outside of self if you're doing it in community, which you always are.
The unit of operation is within. And
yes, the decision is within, but it's always taking into account the outside.
Well, that's a natural happenstance. That's natural. You don't have
Yes,
to
they
plan for
both
that.
are natural.
You stay oriented within yourself and respond and do whatever works.
But you can't just stay inside yourself. You have to understand it's in community. There's a both and always.
You can't not stay inside yourself. The self that is inside is there for a reason.
Yes, but it's always also in community.
That's natural, of course. We, but the stewardship is to remain centered as the autopoietic self, as the self-making.
But not separate, centered, but not separate.
No, of course not.
Yeah, so that's what I'm talking about.
I think one of the conditions of our society that is not working, that people are going outside of themselves to do everything that needs to be done with people.
Oh, sure, no argument there. Yeah, I mean, we're not coached to be inside. In fact, we're coached very much to not be inside.
Okay, that's what I'm speaking to.
Yeah, I'm not speaking of that at all.
That's what I'm hearing.
Well, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah. But
Glad that's,
What?
I'm glad that's over.
Okay.
Once again,
yeah,
agreement. You guys are funny together. That's funny. Or maybe it's just my hay fever.
oh,
Disoriented. We have early spring.
oh,
Yeah.
yeah, we have snow today. It's snowing like crazy.
Oh, wow.
Ooh,
We're snowing here.
it's raining here.
Well, it's snowing. It's snowing green, pollen
Oh,
everywhere.
and it's barely March.
I know.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, no, pine trees have so much pollen. It's just amazing. Yeah, you can kind of.
I have something I've wanted to bring to us. I'm taking the course in regenerative leadership,
Okay.
and the way the course is structured or is managed.
This is in rhythm.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
I mean, I love it all, but the actual time together in the Zoom room is pretty much about following design principles.
Yeah.
Getting the design principles and learning what they are so we can design like that. And I've just become so aware that is not sufficient, because I don't know how to, that's why I wanted to bring this to get clarity about it. But the human part, the being nature part, not the thinking in nature principles. And so we designed that. Seed and Spark did that too. And I kept at it, trying to get us into a feeling place within ourselves as human nature,
Right. Right.
not getting nature's design principles and applying them here and here. We're always going to miss the boat if we don't embody it.
Well, and I don't think, I mean, this has been one of my thoughts about In Rhythm, and I'm working, I can't remember her name, but with one of the people yesterday on a call, she said, oh, well, we should, I'd like to talk with you about presenting your model to us, because I really want to do that, because the pieces of my model, like reciprocity and interdependence, bring that feeling state into it.
Okay.
And theirs don't.
No.
And there's nothing wrong with what they're saying, because they really are principles with the system. That's fine. But there's yeah, I have that same feeling. It doesn't really connect. It's
Yeah.
still outside. And
Yeah.
they're still doing things to the system. The word design is all about doing stuff to the system. And so I often bring that up, that is there another word? Because that's not, we should be evoking.
Right. And that's what I'm wanting to get. And
Well,
human.
but-
I mean,
But they're in an interface too, between businesses that have no clue. And they're trying to bring businesses into that. So there's a certain wisdom in not being too deep into that, because it would just be too off-putting to clients. So I'm going to be curious to see how they respond to the group that I put together, the patterns I put together, and how they see them in relation to theirs. So it's an organic process. So if they're going to let me do it, then I will play with them and we'll see where it goes. I mean, they should recognize what I'm offering, and they should be able to interpret for themselves how comfortable they would be carrying that forward, or whether they feel their clients would have a real reaction and it wouldn't be beneficial for them, or they could do it at a more advanced state. I mean, there's, you could stage it. There's ways. So we'll just see how receptive. I mean, they're very brilliant people. They're really very seated in what they're doing. So we'll just see. Yeah.
So you're taking the next course of design. No,
I'm doing it outside of the courses because it needs to be integrated into the courses.
nice. Well, I'm interested in what you're saying. I'd love to hear it. I'd love for us to have a chance for you to share that with me,
So I'm
if that would be helpful to you.
yeah, I'm in the communities of practice, and I'm in the fellowship stuff. So it's probably in the fellowship conversation that will happen first, because it's really disconnected from everything else they do. So it's a more playful space. It's a safer space to play. And then the communities of practice would be the next place to be for people to begin to play with it in what they're doing and to see how that works if they want to go there. And then I would think they might think about putting it into some of their courses. That's how I would see the potential being. Just because they have, I mean, it's a business. They're getting money for what they do, so they can't afford to upset their clients in a way that would be negative. They can expand their clients into stuff. And so I think that would be possible if they find it useful and relevant. So we'll see how they react to it. I don't know.
How did you get into, what are those two groups? Fellowship?
Well, they offered a fellowship, and I glommed onto that early this year. And so it's a year-long structure that allows me to take everything and interface with everything. So I did the design lab, not very successfully. And then I'm continuing to do that. I'll take the leadership course probably at some point, but right now I'm also working with Earth Regenerators, and they have really responded to the model. I mean, very strongly. So we're going to do a play space where we take the cards and play with them, really work with them, see what we can get from them that is relevant to spaces that we're in or issues that we have. So we're in the process of creating that space. And then out of that, actually I added 22 cards to the deck from the feedback that they gave me. And I'm working with Barbara Lima, who's got a magazine called The Weaver, which is a conglomerate of creatives who are doing things in this space. And so she's working with me to create a graphic for the entire model. So in a couple of weeks, I hope to have that done. And we'll see what that looks like and where that goes. So, and she's very, very clear. I mean, she's good at branding and marketing. So understand, I need a story. I don't have a real clear way of talking. I've got all these pieces, but they've not really come together as a whole. So she'll help me do that to create the story that kind of pulls all that together as we go forward. But we're going to start out with the graphic first, and then we'll work from there. Because I want to put that up. I'm the campaign to raise funds to print the cards is like kind of stagnant. I've done some advertising, but not a ton. But I've been kind of waiting because I want the graphic up there because it is one of the gifts that people get. If they contribute enough money, then they'll get that graphic, and it should be really worth money. So right now it's what I've done, but that's hardly, I mean, it's good. It gives you a picture, but it's not good enough. So
You are by far my most productive friend. And my most expansive, globally productive friend.
Yeah,
And I
very
bless you for
impressed.
that.
Very impressed. I mean, like, my latest ambition is to be able to create a leaf with one brush stroke and be able to repeat it across the
That's-
page. And I'm working on that, you know.
that's not easy.
It's not easy at all. And I see
Yeah.
it as something I really need to accomplish.
Yes.
But
Yes. I was working on bamboo at one point. Yeah.
it's just different.
Can you show us what you've done so far?
Well, I can show you one. This is the one that I was sort of stymied on,
Oh,
because
I like it.
I need a field of green, but I want it to read as leaves.
Oh, I do like
and
it. Yeah.
watercolor, leads me. And unless I control it, it's just a blotch.
So you're working in watercolor?
Yeah, I decided to learn how to do it.
Oh, I love watercolor. I just love watercolor.
I've been tending to ruin anything I've been working on.
I have thought of starting that. I've got pieces laying around, but oh, nice. I've not done anything.
It starts well, and then it gets lost in sort of a fog.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, it's I have much to learn.
Yeah, that's complete. It's perfect.
And this one,
Oh, nice. Oh, nice, Robert.
but
Yeah.
I
Oh, Robert.
don't quite know how to modulate the light, which is what I'm after.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's an interesting question you bring up about productivity. I work hard at this. I used to work very, hard at putting together informed strategies of creating a business, doing the business. And I wrote email letter to a friend of mine who does the same thing. He had spoken about how, I was reading a report on Caring Bridge. He has an entry in Caring Bridge for his cancer treatment.
Yeah, I think I do too.
Friend said, oh, you're going to do just fine. It's just like, I remember you charging up the mountain in Zambia, that was some years ago. He's South African. So I wrote back to him and I said, that may be something you want to leave behind. That charging, because it's particularly for men. It's the way they present themselves in the world. And I don't want to lose him, and he's got to come to grips with how much that has, dominated his life. So what he did tell me was his daughter, who's around 22 or 3 now, came up and they went skiing at the local ski area, even though she came from Denver, so she's used to something big, but they went to this tiny little podunk ski area together. And then they went up to this Kripalu center and did yoga, which I've never heard of doing before. So I gave him thumbs up for that. I'm going on the right track here. Don't worry about any more mountains, at least for the time being. So there is that, there's a flip side. And maybe it's because, I've been trying to scale that mountain my entire life that I feel that I have to cut back now. I mean, I'm very much envious or impressed, Kathryn, by what you're able to do at this
It's not effort.
But then I
doing
see that I'm doing plenty, continuous effort in this other direction. But it's, as Ani was saying before, it's much more, it's very close to my organic being as opposed to reach. It's not outreach whatsoever.
Right.
And yet it affects a lot of people around me.
Right.
Or even not so. Mark lives up in New York State, so I mean, it's not exactly close by, but that close grouping of friends and I'm finding that very critical right now, simply because of the way that I don't know. I feel like the space of civilized life has become so distorted. I mean, I can just feel its distortion and the convulsions of the being twisted around. I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene. I mean, but it's not just Mark. It's also the president of Norfolk Southern Railroad. Saying,
I'm so sorry. I'm so
very,
sorry.
very sorry. But on the other hand, no, they're not going to stop their stock buybacks.
Right.
Which, according to the railroad workers, was exactly the problem. Instead of putting money into updating equipment and technology, they were doing stock buybacks. And I have a friend right up the street who's one of the chief lawyers, at least for the Southern division of Norfolk Southern. So I'm kind of working up to needling him so far.
What?
Of needling him, because I want to be his friend, and he gave me this beautiful calendar, Norfolk Southern. And we joke a lot with each other, but I'm working toward being able to needle him.
Nice.
You know what I'm saying? Sometimes
I do.
You have to develop. So maybe that's my foray, the planning and development, to develop that close friendship. It's coming at it from a different level, but he's definitely highly placed in the company. So
Yeah.
Marjorie Greene, I have no answer to that one, but I am reading, a friend of mine has written a book on the development of it's written the Goldwater gals to the what's the name of the book? Anyway, she wrote about the development in Georgia of these really remarkable intertwined relationships that created a Republican Party basis in the South, well, Georgia particularly, but it did spread over. And it started in 1964. And it had originally, those organizations had originally been run by Blacks who were, who went to the Republican Party because the Democratic Party in the South was totally segregationalist. So these women white women came in and kind of took it over by affiliating with Goldwater and then, you know, Ronald Reagan afterward, particularly. They didn't much like Nixon. But my friend did some, I mean, she was able to interview people from all these different periods, the ones who are still alive, and gotten their exact story. And what I realized was that, well, their main go-to mechanism was what they called a go-to Tea Party, you know, movement, using that original Tea Party. This was way back before it got usurped, you know, in the aughts. But the idea was that just by doing what they would normally do, inviting people over for tea or having, you know, little tea parties, that they would then
Propagate the ideas.
propagate the idea. And they did, highly successful. So I'm reading it because they have a book club on Sunday and she's going to be there. So we're going to
Nice.
grill her about it. But, you know, it just goes to show that these seeds, we're constantly planting seeds. And in fact, one of the head people in 1964, the women who propagated the whole idea, talked in terms of gardening. She says, we're just doing what we would normally do. You know, we prepare dinner from the basic ingredients. We plant the garden in order to.
Yeah, it works either way. Yeah, the process works.
She gathered these people around by speaking in this type of imagery. And I love the sort of the organic integrity of what.
Well, that's why they feel good about what they do.
Has written about, because it worked. It was wildly successful. And in fact, it may have been a key point in the whole shift from, you know, from Democratic Party dominance in the South to Republican dominance. A huge shift.
Yeah.
And so it's just really, you know, it awakens me to the power of small things when held, you know, by a huge state of being, you know, a huge heart.
Yeah, and it's hard to impact that because the emotional nurturing to get from that process, to discover how corrupted it has become or is to life.
Well, that was another shock, is because it started as pretty pure. I mean, these were women who totally believed and poured themselves, and they weren't lying at each other.
Right.
And suddenly, but following in those footsteps, we've gotten total corrosion. I mean, it's just as bad as the buybacks at Norfolk Southern, because it used to be a very viable railroad.
But the emotional impact of realizing that is huge. They don't feel themselves to be that at all. And that's why it's hard to change their mind, because they would have to own that dissonance. And that's huge. It's not a fast, easy thing to do.
Yeah, well, that's the beauty of cancer for my friend. And we've talked about it. You know, the blessing of cancer is that he can't charge up that mountain anymore. I mean, it's not that he might not work himself back to it in health, who knows, but he can't do it today. You know,
it's the blessing of climate change too. We can't just wish that away. We're going to have to change.
He has time to go up to Kripalu for the day, daughter home or not. What an incredible blessing that is, and he appears to realize it.
Oh, very good. Yeah, I wrote a paper, a really short one, really, on the blessings of cancer. Why cancer? Why now? Because I really feel it's the call to authenticity for people to get in touch with what's real for themselves.
Agreed.
And those that do that seem to work through it fine. Those that don't, who push that off and say it's not I have to trust out there, don't do so well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've seen that over and over again.
So I mean, as Ani was pointing out earlier, I mean, it's all about living on the cusp, that it's all, integrating what's in here
That's where we live.
with what's out. It is, that's the whole point of being alive. There's no other point.
It's the razor's edge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the most exciting place to be.
Yes.
Disneyland.
If you maintain center.
Well,
Yeah, but that's the life. That's the journey, is to
That's right.
find the center all the time. Yeah. Yeah, to be in that space. And when you get too far off, then you get things like cancer that go, it's time to rethink where you are. There's something that's not out, that's out in where you are, and you need to bring that in.
yeah.
Yeah.
So something's out on me, because I have never in my life gotten, pollen allergies. Unless I just have a cold, I guess that's possible, but it's really hit me hard the last couple of days.
Mm.
So I'm sure there's a deeper, an interior reason. That,
What's the resistance?
you mean what, to just feeling?
Well, there's I believe the allergies are resistance.
Oh, I see what you mean.
So there's some trying to hold back away from.
Well, I mean, that's what I have to find out. If that's the case, I need to find out. I don't know. I can't answer that right offhand.
What just came to me is, do you use a neti pot at the beginning when you're first having symptoms?
Oh,
No, I don't even know what that is.
All right.
oh,
It's very good for people with allergies. It's,
it-
you pour water in your nose. I mean, you
It
flush
cleans
out
out your
the
sinuses.
It's, if you can catch it right at the beginning, it prevents it.
Well, I
Yeah,
guess
they have a variety in the in the pharmacy. There's a variety of
what's it
different-
called? And I'll look it up.
NETTI pot.
NETTI pot.
It's a little pot with a long spout. And I want to share HR this morning too.
Yeah, no, I'm done. I will look this up when we're done.
Okay, I think Ani's going to get one, I think.
Well, that'll be good to see.
Yeah. And they have different shapes. The newer ones don't look like the ancient one.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's the old shape. Yeah.
I've never.
You put a saline solution inside, and you do like this, and it comes out the other side and clears out the pollen.
Yeah, well, I can give that a try.
Yeah.
If it is real pollen allergy or whether it's a cold, I don't know. But the only symptom is constant drainage. That's the only symptom I have.
Yeah.
So what I learned on HR this morning is about a company in Seattle that has been doing a lot of research, and Jim's brought two companies like this at different levels. And this one is very narrowly focused. And what they're really working on is the mitochondria, which is what powers us. That's where our energy comes from. And when the mitochondria don't have energy, then we get fatigued and we get old. That's one of the symptoms of aging. So he's focused on aging and mitochondria as one of the symptoms of aging. And so they have a product that it's a clear liquid, and you put it in a glass of water and drink it. It's sort of it's similar to electrolytes, but it's a negative charge instead of a positive charge. Electrolytes are positive charges. We need a negative charge because we're negative when we're healthy. We're positive when we're sick. So we don't need positive charges. We need negative charges. And this releases that energy. And he says you can actually feel the energy in your body. So it's a once a day thing that you do. And it's $67 a month for 30 days worth of it. So it's not unaffordable. And it is, just a minute, I can get you the link. I've been kind of looking for things like this just because I feel like I've got enough stress in my life and where I'm living. There is so much stuff in the air that I'm breathing all the stuff. And I just need to pay attention. So it's in the chat, the link. The website doesn't say much, but the ER thing this morning is an hour or so of his talking about the research and what they've been doing with that. And the other one, I don't know if I can find because it's a page, and Lord knows I've got all these links, all these pages, and it's really hard to go through. Oh, wait a minute, maybe I did that. Okay, this is called Age Nation. This is more expensive. This is $125 a month. But I truly, I would really like to work up to this one because I really think there is a huge, huge, huge benefit. And it is interesting because it does stuff, and it's been a while since I listened to the patter, so I can't explain it as well as I might, but it kind of looks for where your body needs repair and does it, whatever that is. So people talked about changes in their eyesight, changes in their gums, as well as changes in other parts of their body, because it just depends on what needs to be healed at that particular point in time. So it's a long-term strategy, and it's a little slower than the neon seems to work really quickly. You can really feel that response right away, which is how I felt with ambertose. That would be another thing. In fact, Robert, I would suggest ambertose for your friend. You can get it in on Amazon. And I don't know what it got.
Amber toast.
Ambertose, it's in the chat.
Oh, okay. Toast.
And it my experience of it was exactly what the guy was talking about. The other thing is that I got energy from it. It really does change it. The patter I remember is ambertose talks about sugars in the body, and that the body needs 8 sugars, and we mostly get 2 in our diet. So, and those are the same 2 that cancer likes, which is why people say don't eat sugar when you get cancer. But when I took ambertose, what it does is it feeds the cells. So the cells can deny the cancer request for sugar, which they can't if they're weak. And I could feel the difference. I could absolutely feel the difference. I felt so much stronger. I had so much more energy when I took it. So it was truly worth it. That was one of the things that I pay money for in that process, because it really worked.
Ambertose, particular sugar. I mean, obviously anything in
8 sugars. It's 8. It's all the sugars your cell need.
Yeah. So this is a combination of different sugars.
Yeah, it's probably more than that, but yeah, that and they talk about it differently now. They were really fierce with me because I was talking about it on my website when I had cancer, and they told me to shut my mouth because I was jeopardizing their getting approval by talking about things they weren't supposed to be able to do. But one of the things about Ambertose that really sold me on it was pictures they had of kids with Down syndrome.
Mm.
And when they had taken it for years, you could not tell they had Down syndrome. All those characteristics disappeared. So there's something in it that is truly worthwhile. And I don't know enough, and they're not talking about it in the same way anymore. So it's kind of hard to know, but that was one of the things that I did that I think really made a difference for me when I had cancer. So
That
that's
is on Amazon.
yeah. And you can, it's $75 a month is what it is. It was 150 when I took it.
This says 174.
Dollars?
Yeah, it doesn't say how much it would be, how long it would.
Oh, maybe it's changed the price because of everything. It was 75 and they were pills.
Oh, this is a powder. It doesn't actually say how long they expect it to last.
Oh, wonder. I haven't looked for it for a while, so maybe it's, yeah, I mean, things change. I don't know.
Well, there's just one that I'm looking at. Yeah, here's tablets, advanced Ambertose tablets.
Yeah.
120 capsules for $62.
Okay. Oh, all right.
This other one was a complex in powder form. That was the 150.
Okay. But that would be something that I would recommend.
Yeah.
I've got a question to ask you, Kathryn, about in reference to the time that you had the cancer, before and during, is your relationship with your cells, your conscious relationships with your cells.
One of the benefits of the life vessel is that it puts you in that kind of relationship. So for 4 hours a month, you're really in a very potentially conscious. Some people go to sleep, so not everybody keeps that awareness.
I'm not talking any intervention of medication.
It's not a medication. The life vessel is not a medication.
Something that's not naturally interior. I mean, what I'm asking about is your relationship with your cells, your conscious relationship with your body before.
And what I'm telling you is that the life vessel puts you in that space so
What?
that you can have that relationship. That's what the life vessel does.
Life vessel. Good. But okay, that would be.
That's where I learned why I had cancer.
Okay. Okay.
But not everybody is able to be conscious in that space. It's called the God box for that reason.
Yeah.
But some people go to sleep and don't take advantage of the consciousness and the awareness of your cells you can gain by being in that box.
Public service announcements could do that. I mean,
No, they can't. I'm sorry.
I do not believe that we can't have conversations with each other in a way that makes us more aware of the need for a conscious relationship with our body.
Of course we can.
That's the point I'm trying to make.
But it's not an either or. And we're not really given a lot of exposure to that in our normal life, especially when people get sick.
I'm not talking about what's outside of ourselves, somebody giving us something or taking something.
No, you don't take anything. The life vessel gives you a chance to experience that. It creates a space for you to experience that. It's vibration. That's all it is. And the vibration does put you in touch with your cells. You can do that by yourself. You can meditate and do that. Absolutely.
That's the point.
Yes. But it is nice to have help, and the vibrations truly help you. And it helps you get through some of the blocks that you have, because it creates a vibration that is aligned throughout your body and your mind and your spirit, so that you have access to some of that which you would not otherwise have.
And that's wonderful that that's available. What I'm talking about, it goes all the way back to autopoiesis, I guess, the self-maintaining, the self, you know, I walk, I power walk.
Yeah,
Talking
you
to my
can do it walking too. Yeah.
I power walk talking to my mitochondria because I understand. I've learned
Sure.
how the
Absolutely.
body works. So that's
Absolutely.
the point. And I'm interested in finding a way to bring that forward in some kind of way, rather than buying this to take care of that you weren't able to do yourself, because we're made to do that ourselves.
Right. Well, and so that's what the meditation space is all about. A lot of the yogic space, that's what yoga is all about. Those are techniques
practices that may or may not have anything to do with conscious relationship with yourselves.
No, they absolutely do if you use it, but you can use it without that consciousness too. Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. And you can use a life vessel without that consciousness too. I had friends who went through it and they just went to sleep. They didn't see it as really important, and they didn't have cancer either. Human beings are very flexible.
If you'd rather superimpose something outside of our bodies to fix our bodies, then fine. But
Well, vibration is not outside your body. It's in your body. It's through your body. It is your body.
okay, I'm done.
Yeah, it's a both and, Ani. It's not an either or.
I'm not talking either or.
No, you're not. You're talking
I'm
just
talking
one way.
biological framework.
Yes. Yeah.
Biological, spiritual. I'm talking natural. I'm talking nature.
Well, what's not natural about frequency?
We're not on the same, we're not in the same framework in any way, shape, or form.
Well, what's not natural about frequency?
I'm done with this conversation. We're not, all I'm saying is nature. All I'm saying is natural. All I'm saying is we have the capacity to have healthy bodies, or
And there's no argument.
to steward that as best we can.
Yeah.
Consciously, with understanding our biology, that we're autopoietic living beings.
And the conversations we have in our heads make a big difference.
I haven't found the way yet to successfully express what is life-giving that I know and experience in my own self and body. I haven't found the way yet, the words, the approach to express that in a way that people can get in, that people automatically go into the relationship with their biology that is life-giving.
Well, you can't do it to others.
I can only express what I have. No, I can't do it to others, but I haven't found the way to express it yet in a way that others can hear.
I do think you express it in the way you live and the way you are, and that people do resonate with that.
Yeah.
I remember, what was it, a month ago or even 2 months ago, you went through an extreme shift, Ani. And suddenly there was this buoyant character in this little screen in front of me.
Yeah.
And you owned up to that. You know, you were very honest about, you know, sort of a process you'd engage. So That's a starting point.
Because I was trying to change things outside of myself. And
Well,
I
good. You stopped doing it.
was what was wrong. And I was making myself miserable.
Yep.
And I stopped.
Well, the sun has come out here after about 24 hours, and I want to go buy myself a neti pot. So,
Nice.
so I'm gonna sign off and walk up to the CVS up the street and see if they have something.
Okay.
So
All
I
right.
appreciate you two very much, and thank you for
Big hug.
bearing with me in this time of drainage. See you later.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Big hug to you.
Thank you. Big hug to you too, and kudos for how you live your life.
Thank you. What do you
Yeah.
think of my hair?
It doesn't seem that different.
Yeah, I haven't had many comments on it.
It doesn't seem that different because it still maintains the bangs. And I like the curving in of the hair around your face and shoulders. But I don't know what's different.
Well, it's about 4 feet shorter. It
Oh,
was down to here.
oh, was it?
Yes, it was.
Oh no, it's nice. It's a nice cut where it falls.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. It's a lot easier to take care of.
Well, I bet.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see.
I keep wanting to inoculate
Yeah.
everybody I speak with who doesn't seem to have the autopoietic centering that I have.
Oh, but they do have their own autopoietic center. It's just different. They've got different times, different things to go through. And you have to honor that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. And it's so hard to watch, especially people you love go through things that you know they don't have to go through.
Uh-huh.
But they do have to go through them because that's where they are. You know, they could change it, but it's just not their path at this time.
See, sometimes I think information can short circuit the things you have to go through.
Right. Well, I hope so, because that's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
And that's why I'm like I am.
Yeah. But you don't control it. You just put it out there and it's glommed onto by people who are resonant, who are close enough to be able to see and know what you're doing. I mean, it's kind of back to what you were talking in the first place. You go to places where you're not familiar or wherever, and then people go, oh yeah, there it is. I mean, that's what the podcast is all about. It's such a big reach, you know, and eventually those people who resonate with that
I'm
will
learning how
find
to
it.
choose the right audio app.
Sorry,
I couldn't find that in your audiobooks.
that's Siri.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm doing the podcast, is because it's just a big, very open reach in the general atmosphere, and people who glom onto it will be there. They will discover it, and it will then have importance to them.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how to find the people who are in the space we are. I mean, it's just, you know,
Exactly.
yeah.
Great point. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well,
But we have each other.
we do, and I'm very glad about that. You're very significant in my life.
Oh, well, you're very important in mine too. Yes.
Kid.
I mean, we just, yeah, it's just so important to have somebody that resonates.
I know. So yeah, I love hearing what you're doing, because it lets me know who you are. It lets me feel who you are, and how you process, how you operate, and I admire that. You're well tuned.
It's a process though. Yeah, I don't, the tuned makes it feel like it happens. And I think it's a process. It's always happening.
Right. It is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's what I feel the marketing is. It's really learning, it's attuning in a bigger space. So it's going from this tunement to it being able to make that space bigger, and finding the words and the graphics that resonate with that keep that space, but make it larger. That's why it's not efforting. I've been just searching with somebody I can work with who knows the tools of that area, dimension, and can take them and help me be there in a way that's congruent. So we'll see.
Okay. All right, honey. Blessings.
Thank you.
Hope you make all kind of connections this week that surprise you and delight you.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
All
Thank you.
right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.